Hello everyone. Today we'll be doing qualitative analysis, right? In qualitative analysis, we have to find which kind of cation and which kind of anion is available inside a particular salt which is given to you in order to test, right? Now understand that before doing the hardcore test or the reaction of anions and cations, what we'll be doing, we'll have various other activities which actually gives you a very nice edge in the competitive examinations like JEE and advanced, right? Now, I guess everyone is capable to see that particular file which I'm sharing with you right here, right? Now, there are certain steps involved in qualitative analysis. Like, what are these steps? Now, the systematic procedure involves, there are five procedures which we have to do. Now, physical examination, like we have to see which color of salt is there, what kind of gas that particular salt will be evolving, what is the nature of gas, what is the dry test, like the flame test. And before doing the flame test, we'll be learning various aspects of the flame. Why? Because in JEE means there was one question which is asked about the region where the temperature of the flame is maximum. So we'll be learning all these things here. And understand one more thing, if we have learned this area, right, this give you edge in the organic chemistry also. Why? Because all the inorganic chemistry question will be asked from that particular region, right? So it will give you edge in inorganic chemistry, right? So it is very simple for a person to solve inorganic question easily when he knows certain things like what is the color of a particular thing, what is the solubility, and what will happen when we heat it, whether a salt will change the color on heating or not. So these all aspects will be covering over here, and these are the particular analysis like in which the anion and cation reaction will be doing, and a systematic approach will be there where you will be finding out that which anion and which cation will give which kind of confirmatory test, right? So let's start with the simple first thing, that is physical examination, right? Now, in physical examination, the very first point is the color of some compound. Now, it gives an extra edge to a student if you know that what is the color of a particular salt, right? Then he can relate the kind of reaction which is given in a word problem, which supposed to comes in JEE Advanced. Now, these are the salts which has the black color, right? Now MnO2 is there, FeO is there, CO is there, Ni2O3 is there, and CO3O4 is there. See, the thing is, Ni plus 2 salts are generally green, but don't get confused with Ni plus 3 over here, right? So nickel oxidation state here is Ni plus 3, which will have a black color. Most of the sulfides have a black color thing. Now understand that silver sulfide, cupric sulfide, cuprous sulfide, mercuric sulfide, lead sulfide, your ferrous sulfide, nickel sulfide, cobalt sulfide, bismuth sulfide, right? These all have your black color, right? Now understand the blue color salts. Now you should know certain things, and you should know like which salt will have a blue color, because there are very limited salt which has a blue color. Now we have hydrated copper sulfate. Now it is a thing that if I'm heating this hydrated copper sulfate, no, it'll get converted into copper sulfate anhydrous. It is white. So it is because of water which is forming a coordination bond with the copper 2 plus ion, which gives a blue color. So copper sulfate is blue color in hydrated form or in aqueous solution. Cobalt sulfate is anhydrous. Anhydrous thing is blue. Chromium pentoxide, like here, it has a structure like this, CrO5, where the oxidation state of chromium is +6. And remember that I do have two peroxy bonds in CrO5. Getting it? It's a very nice oxidizing agent. It is not very stable. It decomposes readily to give oxygen gas. So it decomposes, right, to give Cr2O3 plus oxygen gas. So these are the extra points which I'm telling you, so that while seeing this particular lecture, you can actually jot down these points, so that it gives an extra edge later on also in the chapters like D block, P block, and F block, right? Now, another salt which is blue color, you have uh, ferrocyanide, that is Prussian blue color. Similarly, you have similar this ferrocyanide can be represented like this also. Getting it? They have Persian blue color. Now, chocolate color compound or salts will be your CuCrO4, that is copper chromate. There's cupric chromate percent, cupric ferrocyanide. These are chocolate color, and you should know that in the confirmatory test of copper, you will be deriving this particular salt, which will be having a chocolate color thing. It's a very nice feel to see that salt, right? Now, in orange color, potassium superoxide generally asked in competitive examination, right? Potassium superoxide, it has K plus and O2 minus 1, right? And we know the bond order of superoxide, the atomic number, the total number of electrons which oxygen has over here is 17, and the bond order comes out to be 1.5. And obviously if the odd electrons are there, this oxygen molecule, this oxygen anion will be your paramagnetic in nature. Fine. Now, another thing, potassium dichromate, sodium dichromate, your stannous sulfide, these are antimony sulfide, these are orange in color. Getting it? And it's very nice thing, you'll observe that thing in the test of antimony also, right? Now, green color, I just told you that nickel salts, right? They are generally green in color, right? Ni plus 2 salts is in, so nickel hydroxide is there, nickel cyanide is there. And another green color thing is your potassium magnate, that is the manganese magnate in your plus 6 oxidation state. Chromium plus 3 salts are there. You would have realized in very redox reaction when you are reacting potassium dichromate, which is orange in color. In acidic medium, it acts as a good oxidizing agent, which generally converts into Cr plus 3, which is in green color. So by that thing, you know that this ferrous sulfate dot 7H2O, that is known as green vitriol also, right? Ferrous chloride, chromium hydroxide. So these are the salts which are green in color, right? Next, HgI, the red color thing. Now HgI2 Pb3O4, this is also known as red lead. Red lead oxide is there. Okay. Now understand is also good oxidizing agent. Okay. Nickel, when it forms a complex with dimethyl dioxide, is again red in color. Ferrithiocyanide blood red color will be there. It is again, you would have seen in many reactions. Is one of the confirmatory tests for iron 3 plus also, right? Cobalt cyanide reddish brown. Silver chromate, FeSCN, CnSCl2 red. Your potassium ferricyanide is red in color, and HgO is also red in color. Now, what all very important over there is your HgI2, Pb3O4, nickel obviously, this one, K3, FeCN6, silver, and HgO. They are very important to remember, and most of the question will come from these areas only. Okay. Now, yellow. In yellow, you have AgBr, which is like some pale yellow color, some dark yellow color. AgI is there. Cadmium sulfur is a very nice yellow color thing. PbI2 is again yellow, right? Again, PbI2 is a confirmatory test for potassium iodide as well as lead 2 plus ion. Lead chromate is again yellow color, right? Now, barium chromate is again yellow color. Now, understand that if I am talking about the anion chromate, the color of this chromate ion is yellow in nature. It's already yellow in color. So arsenous sulfide is yellow in color. This is the complex formed by cobalt. Again, you will do in the confirmatory test later on. Again, it is yellow in color. Ferric chloride, it is light yellow. Now you have to uh, pause the video and write down these things because it's very important to remember these colors. Right now, pink color. Now, cobalt 2 plus is generally having pink color solution. MnCl2, again Mn2 plus oxidation state is like pink in color. We can say that it is skin pink, that is buff color. Now, KMnO4 is slightly purple, purplish pink. There is more dark pink. Same for HMnO4. This is permanganic acid. PbO2, CdO, Fe2O3. Now these are the colors which are pink here. Okay. Now this is comes under dark pink, or make it like purple. Now again, this brown color, these are this dark brown color or brown color substances: PbO2, CDO, your Cr2, Fe2O3, copper chromate, manganese carbonate. Now these are the substances which have dark brown or brown precipitate. Now, white precipitate or white salt. What are white salt over there? AgCl, PbCl2, all of them we already know it, right? Mercurous chloride. Now, understand that mercurous chloride is actually a white PPT, and you must be amazed to know that thing. This HgCl2 is soluble. So Hg2Cl2 is actually a precipitate and HgCl2 is soluble. Now, another thing, these are known as magic reaction, which you would have actually seen somewhere, in which like you are putting SbCl3, BiCl3 inside water. They have a very unique hydrolysis. They will undergo hydrolysis to form SbOCl and BiOCl. Now, these both are white in color. Are you getting a point? Suddenly, a clear solution. This is a clear solution. This clear solution generally become a white PPT, and there is a hydrolysis phenomena in this kind of chlorides. And remember that in their group, these two chlorides have a very different hydrolysis character. You remember, no, in which group they are actually present in the nitrogen family: nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth. Now understand that if I'm taking their chlorides NCl3, PCl3, ASCl3, SbCl3, BiCl3. Now the kind of hydrolysis product which they'll be giving is very different. NCl will give you ammonia and sorry, HOCl, right? So I'll be getting hypochlorous acid over there. PCl3 will give you HCl and H3PO3. Your ASCl3 will give you again HCl plus H3PO3, H3ASO3. Now HbCl3, you know that it'll give you 2HCl plus again a precipitate which is HbOCl, and it'll give you 2HCl plus BiOCl. Right? Now, understand one thing. If someone asks you what is the N factor of PCl3 in acid-base reaction, when I'm adding water to it, I'll be getting 3 molecules of HCl and 1 molecule of H3PO3. Hence, 5 molecules of OH minus is required to neutralize this PCl3. Hence, the N factor of PCl3 in acid-base reaction is 5. So, it's just an extra information which I'm giving you. Hopefully, that will be helping you in further problem solving in organic chemistry. Now, this is again the color of these salts, right, which you should remember: SbOCl white, and all of these are like white in color. These all salts, and here you should remember AgCl, PbCl2, Hg2Cl2. Again, these two. Then aluminium hydroxide, tin hydroxide. Uh, Zinc, it is like slightly bluish white. The zinc ferrocyanide is there, no? There is like slightly bluish. Zinc sulfide is there. Zinc oxide is white. When you heat it, it will become yellow. And carbonate salts are white in color only, right? That's it. Like you have to remember these salts, which is very important that they're white in color. So I guess this was a session for the color of salts, which you should know, right? So I guess you would have written all the points which we have discussed right now, and it is very important. Now, after seeing a particular salt, okay, this is the color of the salt. Now you have to take a feel of salt. Like when you touch this salt, no, if there are certain salts which are like rough textures will be there, it is crystalline in nature. There are certain salts which is having a very smooth texture, which is amorphous, right? So these are the salt feel which you have to feel it by your normal senses, right? Now, one is hygroscopic substances. What are hygroscopic substances? which have a tendency to absorb moisture and have a very deliquescence type feel. So what are the salt which automatically absorb moistures from the surrounding? That is calcium chloride, zinc chloride, magnesium chloride, and manganese chloride. So these are the salts which actually absorb moistures from the surrounding. Heavy substances like salt of lead, mercury, barium. Again, when you take a small pinch of salt in a hand, no, you can feel that the salt is actually heavy as compared to the other salts. So generally, when you have this kind of feel inside a lab, no, they belong to these heavy metals, right? Now the light substances, obviously the carbonates of aluminium, zinc, they are very like porous kind of stuff, like powdery stuff, which feels gives you a very light feel. Okay, so it doesn't look very felt very heavy per se. So like this is the field of salt. Okay, this is the normal thing which is written over there. We generally don't follow that thing in lab, but yeah, again for the examination perspective, this hygroscopic substances and these four salts, at least you should write it down. That's very important, right? Now listen. Now, there are certain solids which change color on heating. Now, I guess in the chapter like solid state, you would have done imperfection in the solids, and there are certain defects there. You would have seen a zinc oxide structure. You knew that zinc oxide structure on heating actually produces oxygen. It just goes out from the crystal. I'll get two electron. These two electron will get entrapped inside your lattice, and because of these two electron it absorb color from the visible region, and because of that thing it'll become yellow in color. So your white color zinc oxide suddenly become yellow, and because of this particular thing. Understood? Now you have to remember zinc oxide, right? You have to remember Pb3O4. You have to remember HgI2 and HgO. It's very nice to remember these salts, right? Other salts are not required per se. So these are the things which you should know, and you should always remember these things, right? Hopefully you would have written all this thing. If not, just pause the video and write it down. Okay. Now we'll go to another section: action of heat on different compounds. Now this is a very nice section, because again I told you this particular initial analysis also helps you or gives you an extra edge while solving various questions which will be asked in inorganic chemistry of various competitive examination. So you will find out that if you know these reactions nicely, right, so most of the question or the word problems will come from these questions also only. So once you understand that what kind of nature or what kind of gas a particular salt is evolving on heating, so you can do a very nice justice with a particular problem, right? Now listen: action of heat on different compounds. Now there are certain oxides which directly liberate oxygen on heating. That means there are certain metal also, like silver is there, mercury is there. They have a tendency to just remove their oxygen. The same thing happens with platinum and gold also. Now platinum and gold on very strong heating lose oxygen, right? Now these elements have very less affinity for oxygen, so on very high heating they lose oxygen gas, right? So now understand, I have mercuric oxide, which is a red color thing. When I'm heating it, mercury spontaneously loses its like oxygen gas, and I'll get a silvery deposit at the bottom. Red lead oxide, that is Pb3O4. Now understand that Pb3O4 is actually a mixed oxide, which is actually made by PbO2 dot 2 PbO. So this comes out to be Pb3O4. If someone asks you what are the oxidation state of lead inside this Pb3O4, this is +4 and +2. Now when you heat it, heat PbO2 per se, the part in Pb3O4, that heating will produce oxygen gas, and PbO2 just become PbO. Is also known as litharge. Now what I'll get yellow color litharge. I'll just write it down over there. Litharge, right? and it gives oxygen gas. I guess in the same case given over there, PbO2 also when heated, I'll get this oxygen gas, right? Now understand. I told you know the color matters a lot because suppose there is a question based on lead. In one of the question they are starting with the red lead oxide, other question they are starting with the brown lead oxide. So until unless you should know the color, you cannot actually answer that particular question. So this color remembering is very important again, right? Now silver also doesn't have any tendency or affinity for oxygen. Just you heat it, you will get oxygen gas. Understood? So these are the set of the reaction which actually gives you oxygen gas. Now there are certain things which liberate carbon dioxide. Now I'll just do one thing. I'll just yeah. Now listen. Now what there are certain carbonates which give carbon dioxide. Now I'll just write certain point over there. And it's very important, right? Uh, Carbonates of alkali metals. Alkali metal. Except lithium. Lithium has an anomalous behavior, right? Except lithium. On heating, uh, except lithium, are thermally stable. They are thermally stable. That means, see, most of the carbonates no have a tendency to lose carbon dioxide. But as again, I'm telling you one thing that alkali metal carbonates like sodium carbonate, potassium carbonate, rubidium carbonate, cesium carbonate, on heating those carbonates, they never give you carbon dioxide because they are thermally stable. Now, certain student ask that, sir, it is not possible, right? If I'm heating a particular salt at a point, it should decompose and actually gives carbon dioxide because it's on me, right? How much amount of heat I'm giving you, I'm giving to the particular salt. So by applying enormous amount of heat to a sodium carbonate, it has to decompose. I agree. But what do you mean by thermal stability? Thermal stability means if you are heating a salt below its melting point, if it gives carbon dioxide, it is thermally unstable. Or after melting, if it is giving carbon dioxide, it is thermally stable. So all the alkali metal carbonates after melting can give CO2. That is what in solid state I never get CO2 from them. Understood? So practically speaking, in any question which is being asked from you in your competitive examination, if they are saying that I have a thermally stable carbonate, so make sure that it is belonging to the alkali metal group except lithium. Lithium gives CO2, right? Are thermally stable, right? Lithium is not thermally stable except lithium are thermally stable. Getting it? Now understand one thing here. I guess you got that point. So example, I just write it down over there. Example: sodium carbonate, Na2CO3, K2CO3, etc. That is alkali metal carbonates. Okay. And one extra information on going down the alkali metal group, the thermal stability of carbonate increases because ionic character increases. There's an extra information, right? Now we'll come to that point. Some carbonate liberate carbon dioxide. Now, cupric carbonate on heating will give CuO black. Green color copper carbonate gives you black color cupric oxide and carbon dioxide gas. Zinc carbonate will give you zinc oxide on heating. Understand that yellow on hot and white on cold. That means it gives you particular characteristics of zinc oxide. I'll again get CO2. Now, silver carbonate, I told you silver doesn't have any affinity for oxides, right? So, while other elements generally form oxide plus carbon dioxide, this Ag2CO3, right? One second. This Ag2CO3, this particular Ag2CO3. Now, what happens here? This particular Ag2CO3 on heating, I'll get directly silver because it doesn't have any affinity for oxygen gas. Are you getting what I'm trying to say here? It will not give you this. Now, understand one more thing. Calcium, calcium carbonate, magnesium carbonate, lithium carbonate, everyone will form their oxide plus corresponding carbon dioxide will eject out. So this is a general reaction of carbonate that the element form oxides and I'll get carbon dioxide. And oxides have more lattice energy as compared to carbonates. Just remember that. So whenever a carbonate decomposes to form a metal oxide, the metal oxide lattice energy, the kind of packing it has, it is be like more. It has more lattice energy as compared to a bigger anion like carbonate. Carbonate is a bigger anion, so cannot attract the cation very strongly. So it just comparison between the lattice energy of oxides and carbonate. Now, some bicarbonates of carbon dioxide liberates carbon dioxide. Now, I just come to a point over here. Even not some per se, every bicarbonate have a tendency to evolve carbon dioxide because bicarbonate on heating, if you have bicarbonate and bicarbonate, they just collide with each other. They on heating, I'll be getting H2CO3 plus carbonate. There's an exchange of proton takes place. This carbonate bicarbonate extracts H plus from there. This after giving H plus, I'll be getting carbonate over there. After accepting H plus, I'll be getting H2CO3, which will decompose to give H2O and CO2. That means every bicarbonate should give carbon dioxide, no doubt about it. Now, the thing is, there is again a very important fact about bicarbonates. See, all the bicarbonates are unstable. They don't exist in solid state. They don't have crystalline form except alkali metal bicarbonates. See, alkali metal bicarbonates, alkali metals bicarbonate, except lithium again, exist in solid state. Plus one more bicarbonate is there which exists, which do have a solid state, that is ammonium bicarbonate. So it is very simple that in overall inorganic chemistry, there are only few bicarbonates which have a solid structure or solid state, a solid salt, crystalline salt. Sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, and ammonium. That's it. Over. Francium is radioactive. We don't study it, right? So this is again a very important point along with this qualitative analysis. So all the bicarbonate, if you heat them, they'll give you carbon dioxide and water, and the corresponding carbonate I'll get. In case of ammonium carbonate, corresponding ammonia gas comes out. Getting it? Now again, a very important criteria for the JE advanced perspective. Now it is always confusing that which solvate, which sulfate salt actually liberates sulfur trioxide, which sulfate salt will actually liberate sulfur dioxide, and which will liberate both. There's only one thing, one of the salt which actually liberate both the things, right? But yeah, again, it's very nice because the question will be asked from these particular reactions. So if it gives you an extra edge, obviously it'll make you to attempt the question nicely without any confusion, so that the inorganic part becomes very simple. So you have to write these downs, uh, make a flow chart, make write down this in a paper, apply that on the walls of your room, just see it every day and keep this practice before JE till JE advance. So once it has been done, no, if you see like once in a week or twice in a week, just have a glance over it, everything will be there in your head and you will do good. That is the basic thing which you should practice right now, because it is about to the JEE mains advanced and JEE main exam as well as advanced exam is about to come, right? Now listen. Now copper sulfate is there, dot 5H2. Initially what it will do, it gives all the amount of water. Now from blue color it will become white. So I'll be having a white color over there. And after that, again on heating, it'll give sulfur trioxide. Ferrous sulfate is a very peculiar thing and is a very important thing because on heating, ferrous will get oxidized to ferric. I'll be getting Fe3 plus, right? And if it is undergoing oxidation, sulfur from +6 oxidation state converts into +4. Now again, there's a redox reaction, and here sulfate salt is giving ferric oxide, sulfur dioxide as well as sulfur trioxide. So both the oxides of sulfur I'm getting over there. Aluminium sulfate decomposed to give aluminum oxide and sulfur trioxide. Now there are certain sulfates which actually gives SO2, right? Now what are these sulfates which actually give SO2? Magnesium sulfate is there, zinc sulfate is there, beryllium sulfate is there, right? Now, and on heating at high temperature, SO3 further decomposed to give SO2 and oxygen. So this is a very important thing. Like these elements generally give sulfur dioxide, so you should know that. Okay. Now, some sulfate lose water of crystallization. Whatever water they have, they start losing it. Okay. And calcium sulfate, you already know. The gypsum on heating will give you plaster of Paris. So this is a calcium sulfate hemihydrate, plaster of Paris. Again, on adding water, it recrystallizes to form gypsum. Zinc sulfate dot 7H2O, right? Now this is your on heating. Now in this case, zinc sulfate, there are 6 water molecule which are forming coordinate bond. So I'm having a coordinate bond, and one water molecule is involved in hydrogen bonding deep inside the crystal. So on heating, initially 6 water molecules will go, right? Now finally one water molecule will be left over, which is forming a very strong hydrogen bonding, and further heating I'll be getting zinc sulfate. And on zinc sulfate, you know that on heating zinc sulfate I'll be landing up with sulfur dioxide and oxygen gas. Just now we have done in the above case here. Understood? Yeah. Correct. Now listen. Some nitrates liberate NO2 and oxygen gas. See, the thing is, nitrates have a tendency to decompose. So any metal nitrate, if I'm taking, right, for example, MnO3 whole twice I have taken, let's say. Now understand that on decomposing, it'll form an oxide. It'll give you nitrogen dioxide gas. Plus, it'll give you oxygen gas. So these are the general product of nitrate decomposition. Again, thing over here which is very important. Now, all alkali metal nitrate, again, all alkali metal nitrate except lithium, again because of anomalous property, except lithium liberates except lithium atom liberates oxygen gas. On further strong heating, gives nitrogen gas and oxide, gives nitrogen gas, oxygen gas, and corresponding oxide, metal oxide I'll be getting. Now, thing is, these are all the elements which generally give you in this section. These are all elements which generally give you nitrates as well as what is that? Nitrogen dioxide as well as oxygen gas. Okay. Now, and corresponding oxide. Again, the main point over there: mercuric oxide, silver oxide. I told you mercury and silver doesn't have affinity for oxygen. So when it forms oxide, it will decompose to give you oxygen gas again, and I'll get corresponding metal. So once you know na, that mercury and silver don't have affinity for oxygen, so you can predict the product by yourself. All the things are giving. Everyone here is giving like NO2 gas plus oxygen gas, and one more thing, NO2 color is NO2 gas is brown in color. It is brown in color, having a structure like this, odd electron species, right? A free radical, you can say, and it's brown and paramagnetic in nature. uh, One more thing, the oxidation state is +4. So it can act as both oxidizing agent as well as reducing agent. Some extra point based on the things. Okay, shall we move ahead now? Okay. So please make sure that see all the alkaline earth metal nitrates, your lead nitrates, your zinc, D block element nitrates, they decompose to give you nitrogen gas and oxygen gas. And then you know that if mercury and silver is involved, what you have to do with them, right? Now I just told you that there are certain elements which gives oxygen, that is alkali metal. Now a very nice important point over there, silver behaves like alkali metals. So the thing is AgNO3, right? Ag has an electronic configuration of 5s1, 4d10. So shall I say that 5s1 is the penultimate shell electronic configuration, and alkali metals also have an electronic configuration of ns1. Now because of this similarity, silver shows some chemical properties like alkali metals. Hence, when you heat silver nitrate, it gives you oxygen like other alkali metal does. Getting it? Now your silver nitrate will behave like your sodium only or alkali metals only. So AgNO3 initially on slow heating, like alkali metal nitrates, it become nitrite plus oxygen gas. Similarly, NaNO3, KNO3, rubidium, cesium, the alkali metal will give you these things. But there's a problem in the upcoming heating now. When I heat it very strongly, now this sodium nitrite will get converted into sodium oxide plus nitrogen gas plus oxygen gas. But AgNO through to on strong heating will give you Ag solid plus NO2 gas. So it has a problem in the second heating process, or on high heating the products will become different, and again it becomes a very important question perspective of JEE mains and advanced. Getting it? Okay, so I guess clear. Now understand that there are certain nitrates. See, this is the thing, ammonium nitrate is there. Now when I'm using ammonium nitrate, right, ammonium nitrate decompose, right, on nitrous oxide, that is your laughing gas, on heating. Now understand what happens here. Nitrate ion, which is actually an oxidizing agent, will oxidize your nitrogen from -3 oxidation state to +1. So this is the oxidation state balance. If you balance the oxidation state, you will get this reaction. You'll come to know that this will give you nitrous oxide. And you know what? There is a very short trick to produce the product here. See, ammonium nitrite. I'll take another example also. Ammonium nitrite I'll take, and I'll take ammonium nitrate. When I'm heating these two, just understand I do have 4 hydrogen and 2 oxygen. Now understand how one hydrogen require a single, two hydrogen requires single oxygen to form water. So 4 hydrogen here will be reacting with 2 oxygen to form 2H2O. Remaining will be one nitrogen, another nitrogen, and nitrogen gas comes out. It's a shortcut I'm telling you. Just understand this. How to apply this? 4 hydrogen require 2 oxygen. So here to form 2 water, agreed. Now here one nitrogen, 2 nitrogen, and one more oxygen left. So I'll be forming here N2O gas. So understand, sometime this will help you to find out whether which gas will come out. So there's a short trick for this particular molecules to predict which nitrogen gas is coming, which nitrogen gas or nitrogen oxide is coming out. I guess we have made my point clear, right? Now, another case, hydrated chlorides liberate HCl. Now, understand one thing. These are a category of particular solids where the water molecule is very strongly attached to or attracted to central metal atom. The attraction is so strong. Generally people feel that what we are doing, for example, copper sulfate or 5H2, generally people think that on heating, no, whatever water of crystallization is there, no, just vanish away, and I'll be getting your anhydrous salt. So they have the same thinking for chlorides. See, so there are certain chlorides which do that, but not all chlorides. So these are the set of chlorides. Getting it? Now here, what happened? For example, AlCl3.6H2O you take. Now Al3 plus ion is so strongly attracted by water molecule that on heating there is so much of attraction between water and aluminium 3 plus ion. That means on heating, what will happen? uh, Aluminium, which has very high affinity for oxygen, no, will form AlOH whole thrice. So it'll be extracting OH from there. H plus will react with this Cl minus to form HCl. Now, understand this happens in all the cases where the central atom is attracting the water molecule very strongly. I'll be getting corresponding oxide and HCl gas. Now, again, this is a very important set of reaction which you should remember. Done? We'll move ahead now. Okay. Now, there are some chlorides which decomposes on heating. Now, what are the chlorides is not so important, but that's fine. Ferric chloride becomes ferrous. Cupric chloride, this is cupric chloride, this is a problem in the, there's a typo error. Cupric chloride becomes cuprous and chlorine gas comes out. Mercurous chloride, mercurous is unstable, undergo disproportionation to form plus 2 and 0. This is important. Other things are okay. If you find it out, fine. If you remember them, is good. Otherwise, this is like common sense, you know that. It's not so required, right? Now, yeah, come to these points. Some other salts decomposes. This is a miscellaneous reaction given over there. Now you know that ammonium chromate. Chromate is orange in color, right? Now ammonium chromate. See, I know that on heating chromium plus 6 oxidation state, I'll be landing up to form Cr2O3. That is the end product, which is green in color. I told you a shortcut to extract water, right? Now, how many hydrogens I have? Eight. Eight hydrogens require four oxygen. Now, if it is requiring four oxygen from this oxygen, I'll be getting like 4H2O. Now, none of the oxygen left over, only two nitrogen left. So, I'm getting nitrogen gas. So, I'm getting Cr2O3, which is green in color. I'm getting hydrogen or water, and I'll get nitrogen gas comes out over there. Ammonium nitrite, ammonium nitrate, we have already the nitrogen gas and nitrous gas is coming out. Dichromate on strong heating will become chromate and Cr2O3. It liberate oxygen on heating. It can come as a part of numerical, and again is a D block question, that which of the following compound on heating liberates oxygen gas. For example, KClO3 also gives you oxygen gas to, it forms KCl plus oxygen gas comes out. So these are the things which actually gives you again an extra edge. Okay, so I'm just telling you or giving you the basic reactions which helps you in understanding the inorganic chemistry into a depth level, or it covers all the chapter of inorganic chemistry. Basically, main chemical reaction this particular chapter will cover, right? Now magnesium ammonium phosphate. On heating, I'll be getting ammonia gas. See, the thing is, whenever ammonia is attracted with non-oxidizing salts, what are non-oxidizing anions per se? Phosphate is a non-oxidizing anion. Phosphite is a non-oxidizing anion. Your chloride, bromide, these are non-oxidizing. So whenever you have ammonium ion attached with any non-oxidizing anion, if you heat it, I'll be getting gas plus yeah, I'll be getting ammonia gas directly. There will be no change in the oxidation state in case of nitrogen, but at a point where ammonium ion is bonded with a oxidizing anion, nitrite. Now again, what will happen? The nitrogen oxidation state changes from -2 to -3 to 0, and it gets changed from +3 to 0 again. So understand, whenever ammonium ion attached with oxidizing anion, it converts ammonia. It changes the oxidation state of nitrogen from -3 to either 0 or +1. We have noticed that nitrogen is coming out, ammonia is coming out as N2 or N2O when it is heated in the presence of oxidizing ions, right? So N2 gas comes out here, I'll get 2H2O. So in case of oxidizing anions, oxidation takes place. In case of non-oxidizing anion, ammonia gas comes out like this. Ammonium phosphate, just heat it, ammonia gas will come out like that only. Again, phosphate salt, ammonia gas comes out. Oxalate on heating will give you carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. There's a heating thing of oxalate. So any metal oxalate will become oxide, and I'll get this. Now again, calcium oxalate, I'll get calcium carbonate and carbon monoxide. Calcium carbonate on again strong heating become calcium oxide plus carbon dioxide. Orthoboric acid on different temperature, on different heating, I'll be getting metaboric acid. I'll be getting your tetraboric acid, and on very red hot heat, ultimately H3BO3 will convert into B2O3, boron sesquioxide. I told you KClO3 will directly give you KCl plus oxygen gas. KMNO4 also in heating will give oxygen gas. Na2B407 dot NH is borax. Borax, it is a general reaction borax bead test, where you will be getting a glassy bead on heating, which is nothing but sodium metaborate and boron sesquioxide. Again, I'll say that all these reactions are very important, right? Not for qualitative analysis perspective, but for the perspective of overall inorganic chemistry, right? Now, there are certain things which we'll be doing here. Okay, there are certain points which we have to do for physical examination of salts, and the major point comes out to be the solubility of salts here. Now, yeah, solubility of salts.